I crossed over into a romance novel and had my first encounter with the male protagonist while it was raining heavily. Everyone was running forward, but the male protagonist walked slowly without an umbrella. System, hurry up and give him an umbrella, leave a good impression. I leisurely walked over, holding an umbrella. As I passed by the male protagonist, I sneered and disdainfully said, "Who are you trying to impress with this pretentious act?" After saying those words, I patted my Parisian designer skirt, twirled the 8-carat diamond ring on my finger, and confidently walked away. System. Male protagonist. Chapter 1. I sat in the Rolls-Royce, marveling at the luxurious leather seats, feeling a sense of awe for the lives of the wealthy. System, what were you doing just now? That's the male protagonist. I adjusted myself into a comfortable position and rolled my eyes. What's so special about the male protagonist? Just because he has a little more money, he thinks he's superior? System, if you want to return to your original world, you have to capture the male protagonist's heart. Me, what? You mean I can stay in this world forever? That's fantastic. Just kidding, after reading so many transmigration novels, it's finally my turn to transmigrate. Why would I want to go back? To continue being a miserable office worker? System. The system continued to persuade me relentlessly, your character is the villainess. Once the main couple gets together, they'll bankrupt your family. How will you enjoy life then? I looked at the bustling skyscrapers receding outside the window and fell silent for a moment. How long until my family goes bankrupt? System, 5 years. I let out a long sigh. I've enjoyed 5 years already. If I have to face some hardships in the end, so be it. It's only fair. Besides, being the villainess means I can do whatever I want, go crazy whenever I feel like it. It matches my mental state quite well. System. From now on, I'll definitely avoid pursuing the poor ones. In the following days, I busied myself with enjoying my life as a wealthy young lady. As for the male protagonist, I had long forgotten about him. Sitting on a diamond-encrusted toilet, I marveled at how much the original owner of this body knew how to enjoy life. The money I earned through a year of hard work before could probably only buy a roll of toilet paper. Since I've transmigrated, I must fulfill my mission and continue to indulge in this decadent and luxurious lifestyle. I started shopping spree, buying whatever caught my eye. I ate all the food I hadn't tried before, the ones I couldn't afford when I was a corporate slave. In this world, we come with nothing and leave with nothing. Enjoyment is what matters, and only experiences truly belong to us. Besides, I have money to spare. Spending money also contributes to the economy. Looking at the room filled with jewelry and designer clothes and bags, I happily rolled around on the bed. It feels amazing to swipe a black card. The system still hadn't given up on trying to guide me onto the right path. Frustrated, these things are just material possessions. Don't you feel empty or bored? Me, hiss. I don't feel that way at all. I started trying on clothes in front of the mirror, taking selfies. The original owner's figure and beauty were top-notch. It's just a bit of a pity that this world doesn't have the celebrities from my original world. Otherwise, I could use my influence now to take photos with my brother, and it wouldn't be a problem to ask him to sleep with me. I shook my head with a sigh, put on my sunglasses, and prepared to go out. The system thought its earnest persuasion had finally worked. You've finally come to your senses. I smirked mischievously. You're thinking too much. I just want to go to a bar and have some fun with a few handsome guys. System. With that said, I hummed a tune and left the house. In my original world, I hadn't even kissed a man in over 20 years. This time, I must savor the taste of a man. Chapter 2. I drove my Maserati to the most expensive and extravagant bar. The dim and dazzling lights, the deafening music, and unfamiliar men and women swaying their bodies, the air filled with various perfume scents. Perfect, this is exactly the kind of place I was looking for. As soon as I entered, the headwaiter immediately approached me, bowing. Miss Smith, what have you been busy with these days? You haven't had time to show up. I remained expressionless, taking off my clothes as I walked inside, lazily replying, none of your business. The description of Vivian in the book is that of a brainless supporting character, a malicious young lady, looking down on others, acting all high and mighty. On the surface, everyone treats her with respect and flattery, but in reality, it's the same. That's the only thing I can't figure out. No matter how bad Vivian is, she always has a group of loyal followers. After I arrived, I naturally continued this fine tradition. The man's face broke into a smile, following behind me and carrying my clothes. "Miss, you're absolutely right. We just got a batch of newbies today. Would you like to try them out?" I kept a straight face, but inside, I was overjoyed. Damn it! After living for more than 20 years, I can finally taste the flavor of a man. Having a few men at the nightclub at my disposal has always been my dream since I was young. I lazily replied with a pausing before entering the private room. "Are they all clean?" "Absolutely." Satisfied, I walked into the private room. I don't want anything dirty or rotten cucumber-like. My heart raced. Tonight, I will push my limits. I stayed in the private room for a while, and soon someone let in 5 or 6 young men. "Sis, the best ones are all here." Casually playing with my freshly manicured red nails, I looked up and glanced at each of them. One looked like a young puppy, another like a young wolf, and then my gaze landed on that gloomy, decadent, and devastatingly handsome face, squinting my eyes. Life truly is controlled by the plot. There's a scene in the book where the male lead, Tom, reluctantly works at the bar to save his critically ill mother. But then he catches the attention of the malicious supporting character, Vivian, and after a humiliating encounter, the female lead suddenly appears, setting the stage for the development of the main couple's relationship. I never thought that even after deliberately avoiding the time and place, I still couldn't escape this fate. The system's eyes lit up. Male lead, seize this opportunity quickly. I stood up and stood in front of Tom, raising an eyebrow playfully. "Oh, isn't this Rain, brother?" Tom abruptly lifted his head, his pitch-black eyes meeting mine. The people around immediately smiled obsequiously. "Miss, do you know each other?" I yawned, not bothering to respond to the person's words, lightly lifting a finger. "Him." "The system, what are you doing?" Tom, the male lead, has a strong ego, and he's aggressive and rebellious. Humiliating him like this will only make you die faster. Me, even better, if I fail the mission, you can replace me with another conqueror. Besides, you don't like me anyway. The system, fine, even a blind conquest is still a conquest, as long as there's a connection with the male lead. I gave up struggling. In reality, I chose Tom not only to annoy the system but also for another reason. Damn it, among these people, Tom is the most handsome, and I'm not someone who neglects my own body. Tom's face turned embarrassed, his gaze dark. "I don't do this kind of thing." He may be desperate, but he won't sell his body. I became interested. "Then what do you do?" Tom's tone was cold. "I'm a waiter." I smiled, my lips curling up, and said word by word, "That's right, Tom, the waiter's serving me. I am also a waiter serving someone, just with a slight difference in the target of my service, but the rewards I receive are multiplied by tens." Tom furrowed his brows, let out a cold laugh, and turned to leave, untying the bow tie around his neck. Seeing him about to leave, the head waiter hurriedly grabbed him, afraid that I would get angry, and whispered with a threatening tone, "Think about your mother in the hospital before you make a decision." I leisurely said, "If you follow me, I'll give you 100,000 a month, arrange the best ward and medical team for your mother. How about that?" Tom stopped in his tracks, not answering. Silence is the best answer. I chuckled, smashing people with money is so satisfying. If the other party doesn't agree, it just means the money is not enough. As long as you find the other person's weakness, no one will abandon their family for the sake of so-called dignity. I waved my hand, and the head waiter, with a discerning eye, led the others out and closed the private room door. The room instantly became quiet. I turned and walked towards the inner bedroom. Seeing him still standing in place, I frowned. "Why are you standing there? Come with me." Only then did Tom make a move, following behind me. The bedroom was decorated with a lot of taste, and there was a large bed. What to do next is self-evident. I said, "Close the door and take off your clothes." Tom walked up to me, hesitating. Impatiently, I urged, hurry up. I am a hot-tempered, foul-mouthed, and malicious brainless supporting character. I won't pity or cherish anyone. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and raised his trembling hands to start unbuttoning his shirt. I commanded, open your eyes, look at me. Veins popped on Tom's forehead, and he suddenly opened his eyes, meeting my teasing gaze. I hooked my lips in satisfaction, admiring his stubborn yet reluctantly submissive appearance. The system tightly closed its eyes, desperately advising me, think about it carefully. Aren't you afraid that halfway through, Tom will crush you to dust? If you humiliate him with money like this, when the day comes for him to turn things around, you won't even have a place to be buried. Humiliate him with money? How can that be considered humiliation? It's simply an insult to money the way it's saying it. You're too noisy. Do you want to watch a mixed doubles battle? The system switched to blocking external mode. I assessed Tom's body, a calm expression on my face, while my heart was already surging with excitement. Indeed, he's the male lead. His physique is even better than I imagined. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, a perky butt, wheat-colored skin, he looks powerful. Smooth and solid muscles, I couldn't help but raise my hand and touch them. That voice didn't come from Tom, it came from me. Tom's forehead was already covered in a thin layer of sweat, his face flushed like he had a fever, his jaw clenched. Just as I was about to take the next step, I suddenly felt a warmth in my lower abdomen, realizing that something was not right. Chapter 3. Damn it. At this critical moment, my period came. I walked out of the bathroom with a black face, looking at Tom standing there dumbfounded. What are you staring at? Get on the bed. Tom frowned and hesitated, asking, you want to continue even though you're like this? I chuckled in anger, what are you thinking? I want you to come up and massage my stomach. I didn't want to fight a bloody battle, even if he was handsome. But I couldn't just let him go either. People were waiting outside, and if I let Tom leave now, they would think that I couldn't handle Tom. That would be too embarrassing. When Tom's calloused palm touched my skin, I sighed in comfort. Tom's ears turned red, and he frowned, saying, don't moan. I looked up at him and said, I will moan if I want to. Are you the boss or am I the boss? As soon as I said that, Tom immediately shut up, and his face didn't look too good. I didn't care about his mood as I enjoyed myself. Just as I was enjoying myself, the door of the room was suddenly knocked a few times. I frowned. Who dared to disturb my good time? Normally, no one dares to approach Vivian's private room without orders. Today, knowing that I was busy, someone still dared to come forward. Who had such audacity? I got off the bed and went to open the door, impatiently asking, what's the matter? The head waiter bowed and wiped the sweat from his forehead, saying, Miss, there's a girl who insists on seeing Tom. I couldn't stop her, otherwise, she threatened to destroy our establishment. I sneered, useless. As soon as I finished speaking, a figure suddenly broke free and rushed towards me, saying, what did you do to Tom? I squinted at her and asked, who are you? I'm Tina, Tom's friend. I chuckled inwardly. As expected, the female lead arrived, albeit late. Tina looked worried, her brows furrowed. Where's Tom? What did you do to him? Two people alone in a room, what do you think Tom and I were doing? I wore my bathrobe loosely, revealing delicate skin, and my face clearly showed irritation at having been interrupted. Tina couldn't believe her eyes. I don't believe it. Let Tom come out and tell me himself. Perhaps seeing that I wasn't going back anytime soon, Tom came out from the inner bedroom to find me. I lazily leaned against the door frame and said, this young lady claims to be your friend. She wants you to personally tell her what we were doing just now. Tom had his upper body bare, only wrapped in a towel. The redness on his face had not completely subsided, and there were still a few beads of sweat on his chest. Noticing this, Tina's eyes instantly turned red. She bit her lip tightly, not letting the tears fall. Is what they said true? However, Tom didn't even look at her and directly said to me, I don't know her. Tina stood frozen in place. I smirked, having already anticipated this answer. In the original story, the female lead Tina was a gentle little son, while the male lead Tom was a gloomy young man. By chance, Tom saved Tina, and she became infatuated with him, gradually falling in love with the female lead, who became the light that redeemed the male lead. It was just a cliché healing and sweet romance story. The current plot development was that a few days ago, the male lead Tom had just saved the female lead Tina, and Tina was pursuing him passionately. However, Tom had almost no recollection of Tina. I watched the commotion with amusement, saying, "Listen, little girl. He said he doesn't know you. You should go home early. This place is not suitable for you." Tina just stared blankly at Tom. I snuggled up against Tom, coquettishly saying, "My waist is so sore, give me a massage." Tom closed the door, shielding us from prying eyes. This little episode clearly didn't affect my mood, as I fell asleep with my head on Tom's arm in no time. When Tom saw me asleep, he stopped what he was doing and looked at me with a dim, uncertain gaze. I slept comfortably through the night and woke up the next morning to see Tom curled up sleeping on the couch. Choosing to sleep on the couch instead of the bed, is he rejecting me or afraid that I'll reject him? I walked over and gave his butt a pat. Very elastic. Tom startled awake, opening his bloodshot eyes and seeing me standing there, arms crossed, looking down at him. I said disdainfully, "Get up, you sleep like a dead pig." Tom, with a tense expression, stood up and asked, "Can I leave now?" "Leave? Stay with me for one night and you'll get $100,000 and access to medical resources for your mother. Do you think you're too precious? Just like a courtesan, I'm throwing money around just to make you smile. But look at yourself, do you even deserve it?" Tom's face turned green with anger. "What else do you want me to do? Be my personal male nanny for 24 hours. Wherever I go, you go. What I ask you to do, you do. Until I get bored of you. Of course, you can choose to quit, and accordingly, I will stop providing medical assistance to your mother. Fair, isn't it?" I patted Tom's face, silently marveling at how the male lead wakes up in the morning without a hint of oil on his face. Amidst my playful gaze, Tom nodded. Tom and I left the private room, walking side by side. Immediately, someone approached, saying, "Miss, how was this guy's service last night?" The men looked at Tom as if he were a male pig that could fetch a good price. I lazily replied, "I'm taking him away." All right. Just as we left the bar, Tina rushed over. Her eyes were swollen, her clothes wrinkled. It was clear she hadn't slept all night, standing guard at the door. I shrugged and said, "I'll wait for you in the car. Deal with it quickly." "Tom, you didn't do this willingly, did you? You must have your reasons, tell us, and we'll figure it out together. How could you willingly degrade yourself like this?" As I walked, I overheard Tina's words, thinking that women always find reasons for men. Although she guessed correctly. But feeling sorry for a man is just the beginning of misfortune. I had just sat in the car when Tom approached. I jokingly said, "Oh, you're quick." Tom clearly didn't want to talk to me, but it didn't stop me from being nosy. "What did you say to your sweet sister?" "I told her not to bother me anymore. What I do has nothing to do with her. Why are you so cold and heartless? She waited outside all night, and when she hears those words, your sweet sister will definitely be heartbroken." Tom frowned. "Do you have to be so annoying?" I immediately pulled a sour face. "Yes, I am annoying. If you can't stand it, then leave." Tom, with a temper of his own, slammed the car door and walked away. Chapter 4. 3 minutes later. Tom got back in the car. I sat in the back seat and sneered, "Get out, the smell of smoke is stinking up my car." Tom glanced at me and got out of the car, only to get back in 5 minutes later. He had gone to air out the smoke. For a moment, the car was quiet, but then Tom broke the silence. "Where are we going?" I replied coldly, "Vivian Manor." Yes, this estate named after Vivian was a castle her father had built for her since she was born. Everyone in the city knows that Vivian is the apple of the Smith family's eye. Tom didn't show much expression on his face, just familiarized himself with the car's features, then turned on the navigation and started driving. I closed my eyes and dozed off in the back seat. Did you really sleep with the male lead? The annoying system came back online. I ignored it, but the system continued to prattle on. You didn't get killed by the male lead, it's truly a miracle. I was ready to welcome the next conqueror. Me. The system proudly said, how did you do it? It seems you've got some skills, truly worthy of being the one I chose to conquer. I rolled my eyes, didn't work out. The system paused for a moment. Huh. Then what did you two do last night? So annoying, other people's systems are helpful assistants, why is mine a fool? Seeing that I wasn't responding, the system pulled up the records from yesterday. After reading through them, it breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, nothing major went wrong. The system said contentedly, you're making progress, knowing to bring the male lead home. The closer you are, the easier it is to win him over. Me, I just think he's the most honest when he's right under my nose. Keeping him trapped and preventing him from developing further is the best way to bring down my family. The system. After the car entered the estate, Uncle Wang quickly came forward, respectful as ever. Miss. It's safe to say that Vivian's personality and family are closely related. Money is abundant, but love is lacking. Vivian's parents are always doing business overseas, and with such a large estate, only I, Uncle Wang, and 2 maids live here. He looked at Tom, who was standing awkwardly at the side, and asked, who is this? I casually said, my nanny. Yes. Uncle Wang is the professional butler my father hired at a high salary. He never asks too many questions, only obeys my commands. Tom became my personal nanny, taking care of me, helping me with dressing and eating, accompanying me for shopping and leisure activities, and occasionally being insulted and made fun of by me. When he made a cake for me, I got angry. How can I eat this cake that's so greasy? Did you not learn the nanny's code of conduct? Didn't Uncle Wang teach you? Uncle Wang slightly bowed. I have taught him. Tom looked at the cake I knocked over onto the ground, bent down to clean up the mess, and whispered, I'll make another one. I sneered, even if you make another one, it'll still be just as tasteless. He gave me a bath and I found fault with him. The bathwater is so hot, are you trying to boil me? Tom frowned, you've been feeling a bit sick these past few days. I coldly snorted, I think you're just taking the opportunity to retaliate. These past few days, maybe due to my menstrual cycle, my temper has reached its peak, and I often get angry with Tom. But he always holds back. I stood by the window, watching Tom downstairs, learning how to trim branches from Uncle Wang. The system came online, silently watching with me. Me, didn't you say the male lead has a strong ego? Won't bow down for just a bowl of rice? System, you're amazing. I blinked sincerely, hee, you can be amazing too. System. Me, you're amazing at boasting. System has blocked your message. Annoying the system has become part of my daily routine. After teasing the system, I feel good, so I took Tom shopping. I shouted angrily, why are you walking so fast? Do you think you're a sausage? Tom. Suddenly, a surprised voice came from ahead. Tom. TSK, they really are the main characters, always running into each other as soon as they step out. Clearly, Tina also spotted me, her face instantly turning sour. She quickly approached us, what are you doing here too? I quickly hid behind Tom and tugged at his clothes. I showed a pair of innocent eyes, she's so scary, scared me away. What's shocking is that Tom actually rubbed my head and whispered softly, don't be afraid. Tina's face turned pale, but she still held on. Tom, I have something to say to you privately. Actually, I'm not really interested in the romantic development between the male and female leads. After all, I'll be gone in 5 years, I'm just here to experience the life of a wealthy woman. I was about to say that I'll go to the next door luxury store to browse around. Even though I'm so rich now, I still haven't changed my habit of being thrifty. I love gold. But unexpectedly, Tom suddenly spoke, I have nothing to say to you. After saying that, Tom grabbed my hand and turned to leave. I know your mother is sick, and you're with her to help with her treatment, right? Tina shouted at our backs in the mall. I knew you had reasons. I raised an eyebrow, surprised that Tina wasn't foolish after all. I turned to see Tom's reaction, and he looked at Tina with a cold gaze, his voice icy. "I've already said, my business has nothing to do with you. We've only met twice, isn't it a bit too much for you to meddle?" Tina's eyes immediately turned red. As the malicious supporting female character, I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. I sighed in my heart. Tom's words are too harsh. I should definitely arrange a cremation for him when he chases his wife in the future. On the way back, Tom's aura was very low, and I wisely didn't act like a fool. After all, I'm really afraid he'll kill me. I haven't enjoyed this life of a noble heiress enough yet. Chapter 5. Tom's male nanny is getting better and better, considerate and thoughtful, to the point where I can't even find fault with him when I deliberately provoke him. Not only that, even when I scold and hit him, he doesn't fight back anymore, which only makes me look like a clown. One day, after finishing our meal, Tom hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Can I ask you something?" I lazily lounged on the hammock, basking in the sun. "Go ahead." "Can I go see my mom? I haven't visited her once these past few days, and she's worried about me." "You can." Tom seemed surprised that I was so accommodating, visibly taken aback. I smirked. "But there's a condition." Tom's expression remained unchanged. He already knew I wouldn't let him off so easily. "What condition?" "Finish what we left unfinished at the bar that day." My eyes hinted suggestively at his slender waist, and I swallowed nervously. My period has been absent for several days, and I need to sleep with Tom as soon as possible, so even if I go offline later, I won't have any regrets. After all, I've slept with the male lead. Tom pressed his lips into a straight line, hesitating. Seeing his unwillingness, I instantly became annoyed, as if I were some tyrant forcefully taking a married woman. Why act so reluctant? Weren't you enjoying it when we did it? It was mutually beneficial. Tom's body visibly stiffened. But I didn't care about his thoughts. I casually patted his face. "Tonight then, make sure you clean yourself up, I'm a clean freak." After saying that, I left gracefully, leaving him alone on the balcony. Out of my sight, Tom clenched his fist, his expression dark. He wasn't quite used to having the audacity for the first time. I cursed myself silently for being so weak, unable to handle even the smallest challenges. So I opened a bottle of red wine to gather some courage before going to sleep. Before drifting off, I had only one thought, truly deserving of a male lead, radiating with a halo. When I woke up again, it was already the next afternoon, and Tom was sneaking around in the kitchen, doing something I didn't know. He saw me and his face seemed unnatural. "How do you feel?" I coldly snorted. "I don't feel anything." Tom's face immediately darkened, and he sneered. "Is that so? But last night, you..." "Shut up." I snapped in anger. "Who do you think you are to talk to me like that? Do you really think that sleeping with me makes you someone important? Let me tell you, you're nothing more than my plaything." The smile in his eyes disappeared, and he calmly looked at me with his dark pupils before suddenly laughing. "You're right, I'm just your dog, a pathetic one." After saying that, he turned around and left. I couldn't stand his attitude and started eating my meal. While eating, I asked, "Uncle Wang, what kind of soup is this? It's quite tasty." "Miss, this is a stewed angelica, codonopsis, and pigeon soup that Tom made for you this morning." As soon as I heard that it was made by that dog Tom, I instantly lost my appetite. Since that day, the relationship between Tom and I reached an all-time low. But I have my ways. After all, his mother relies on me for all her medical treatments at the hospital. If he wants to go see his mother, he has no choice but to bow down to me. If he pleases me, I might agree to give him a day off. Tom can only exchange his dignity for a pitiful freedom. But he is silently resisting, doing whatever I ask of him, but with a displeased expression. He placed the final dish in front of me and looked at me coldly. His intention was clear, he wanted a day off. I sneered inwardly. "When you ask for a favor, you should have a respectful attitude. Who do you think you're showing that sour face to?" He suppressed his anger and asked, "I've done everything you asked. Can I go to the hospital to see my mother today?" I crossed my arms in front of my chest. "Please use honorifics when addressing me, or call me Miss." Tom's face turned purple with anger, but he obediently called me Mississippi. Chapter 6. The relationship eased because of an accident. I followed him to his house to get some daily necessities and winter clothes. Originally, I could easily provide these things for him, but he insisted that he's just a dog and doesn't deserve them. So I had no choice but to go along with it. This was my first time going to Tom's house, and the place he lived in was even more rundown and cramped than where I lived when I was a corporate slave. He lived on the top floor, the 6th floor, because the rent was cheaper. I initially didn't plan on going up with him because climbing 6 flights of stairs was worse than eating shit while doing a handstand. But Tom said they installed a new elevator this year. So I followed him. When we were going down, the elevator suddenly dropped, and I fell into a warm embrace. The elevator was pitch black, and nothing responded when I pressed any buttons. I said in a scared voice, "What do we do?" "Tom, we're not going to die here, right?" Although the original Vivian was domineering, she had a fear of the dark and even claustrophobia because her parents weren't around when she was young. The lights in her bedroom were always on. Tom had already been trained by Uncle Wang regarding these things after becoming my male nanny. I started trembling all over, with sweat forming on my forehead. Tom's firm and gentle voice rang in my ear, "Don't be afraid, I'm here. Someone will come to rescue us soon." But I was still terrified, my breathing becoming increasingly rapid, almost suffocating. Tom urgently called my name, "Vivian, hold on a little longer, just a little longer." I was about to tell him to shut up because he was too noisy, but suddenly, something soft covered my lips. I widened my eyes and looked at Tom in front of me, his eyelashes trembling lightly. Suddenly, the elevator doors opened, and a few maintenance workers stood outside, staring at us. I finally crawled out of the hole and breathed a sigh of relief in the car. Tom stared at me intently and cautiously asked, "What did you think about that kiss just now?" I really have an aversion to stupid people. He forcibly kissed me and asked me what I thought. "Are you crazy? I was suffocating and you wanted to steal oxygen from my mouth. Are you so desperate to stay alive?" Usually, after being scolded by me, he would have a black face, but this time, he blushed. "Vivian, your mouth wasn't that tough when I kissed you." Our relationship inexplicably eased from that day on. No matter how much I scolded Tom, he would happily accept it. He completely transformed into a clingy little dog, constantly asking for kisses. After our workout in the evening, he held me like a dead fish and said, "Let's go camping this weekend." "No. Come on, I'll make barbecue for you." As soon as I heard the word eat, I hesitated for 3 seconds and nodded in agreement. But in the end, Tom and I didn't get to eat the barbecue. We were kidnapped. We were thrown into an abandoned factory. I pretended to remain calm and said, "How much money do you want? I'll give it to you, just let us go." But clearly, they weren't after money, they were after me. The Smith family already had many enemies in the business world and was resented by many. And Vivian, being a brainless rich girl, had offended many people. The bald man with tattoos looked at me with a lewd smile. "It's no wonder you're the Smith family's little miss. This tender and juicy flesh, it must be so delicious when roasted." I blinked sincerely. Conscious suggestion, thinking only about eating will bring you bad luck. Like me. Before the bald man could respond, he was knocked down to the ground. "I told you, thinking only about eating brings bad luck." Tom had somehow managed to free himself from the ropes and started fighting with those people. After all, it's hard to fight against 4 hands with just 2 fists, and Tom quickly found himself at a disadvantage. I was frantic, but all I could do was make sobbing sounds. That guy still managed to comfort me, saying, "I'm fine, don't worry." All I wanted to say was, "For fuck's sake, take this opportunity to untie me so I can run on my own." I slowly moved towards the door, and suddenly, Tom lay in front of me, blocking my way. Inside, 10,000 grass mud horses ran through my heart. He was covered in blood, pale-faced, trembling as he wiped away my tears. "Vivian, don't cry." I cried my eyes out. Tom thought I was reluctant to let him go, but in reality, I wasn't ready to give up the life of a socialite here. I didn't want to die yet. Suddenly, sirens sounded outside the factory, and Uncle Wang rushed in with bodyguards and the police. "Miss, are you all right?" My Uncle Wang, he really looked so handsome. After Uncle Wang untied me, I immediately hid behind him. Tom stared blankly at the surrounded police and bodyguards. The other tough guys immediately panicked, dropping their weapons on the ground. The bald man viciously grabbed Tom by the collar and loudly questioned, "Did you call the police, you little bastard? You hired us to play this act, but now you're turning against us." "Well, if that's the case, then don't blame him for getting caught in the net." The bald man was quickly subdued by the police, then turned to shout at me. "Miss Smith, this guy planned the kidnapping, all to make you fall in love with him and take over your family's fortune. Don't let this scum deceive you." Tom immediately turned to look at me, anxiously trying to explain. But when he saw my calm expression, my hands confidently crossed in front of my chest. After realizing my response, he suddenly burst into laughter. "Vivian, you're really cunning." I looked down at him, smiling with a curved lip. "Without you, there wouldn't be today's mantis catching the cicada, with the cicada eating the mantis. Besides today's kidnapping, there are a few economic cases you should think about how to explain to the police." Before being taken away by the police, Tom, with red eyes, asked me, "Have you ever liked me, even just for a moment?" That question is so cliché. Do you really think of yourself as a protagonist in a novel? Watching Tom being taken away by the police, I let out a slow breath. "Vivian, I avenged you. I personally sent the male lead to prison, and the mission to capture the male lead had failed. I would return to my original world." Slowly, I lost strength and consciousness, unable to stop sighing in my heart. Going back means being a miserable corporate slave again. Chapter 7. Opening my eyes again, I found myself in a hospital. "System, are you still there?" I had never been so eager to hear that annoying voice of the system. The excited voice of the system came through, "I'm here, you just fainted due to low blood sugar. The organization listened to your suggestions and changed the mission settings at the last moment. However, they are very angry at your unauthorized actions and deducted 800 gold beans from me. But because of your outstanding performance, they rewarded me with 1,000 gold beans, hee hee." I rolled my eyes. By the time your organization approves, I would have died 800 times. The system continued, "Because of your valuable input, the organization is awarding you a special privilege. You can choose the end time of the mission freely." Choosing freely meant that I could stay in this world as long as I wanted. I laughed like a pig. One of life's 3 greatest joys: getting promoted, getting rich, and seeing your husband die. Extra. Yes, I was the one who called the police. Because this kidnapping was orchestrated by Tom himself, staging a hero saving the beauty act. The purpose was to gain my trust. I had long known that Tom was not a good person. The frequency of his visits to the hospital kept increasing. I sensed that something was wrong, so I secretly had someone investigate. Only then did I discover that this guy had been secretly seeing the female lead. Not only that, but he had also started his own business. After all, with the monthly funding of 100,000 from me and the halo of being the male protagonist given by the author, he would soon become a rising star in the tech industry in Beijing. Standing outside the room, watching them happily together, I felt nothing but disgust. Coming down from my bed and turning around, I could easily fall into the arms of the female lead, enjoying her gentle and cozy embrace while spending the money I gave her. At that time, the system was still annoyed with me, saying, "You've been enjoying enough. If you don't pursue the male lead soon, you'll end up with the female lead, and your fate will be miserable." I replied, "So why should I pursue the male lead? Wouldn't it be better to destroy him once and for all?" While the male lead's wings were not fully grown, I decided to put an end to him. It was foolish to think I could change a man who was destined to cause my own demise with love. One should not love a male protagonist too much in this world. Vivian was just a tool created by the original author to facilitate the development of the relationship between the male and female leads. She was manipulated by the plot to fall in love with the male lead. She even donated her kidney to the male lead's mother, only to end up with her life ruined by the male lead. Typical fate of a male and female lead, while the supporting role's fate is not even considered. Since I transmigrated into Vivian's body, I should seek revenge for her and eliminate her enemies. That is the mission of a conqueror. The system remained silent for a few seconds, unable to come up with a rebuttal. Seizing the opportunity, I continued, if the original Vivian knew that the conqueror would eventually take over her body, not seek revenge for her, and instead fall in love with her enemies, wouldn't she be furious and seek revenge in her next life? Finally, the system made up its mind, I think you're right. Why do we always have to pursue the male lead? Wouldn't it be better to get rid of him? However, such missions were always assigned by the higher-ups. The system spoke in a serious tone, don't act impulsively. Let me apply to the higher-ups first. I was surprised, your system even has superiors? The system gave me a disdainful look, of course, we have a very strict set of rules and regulations. Do you know how many gold beans I've been fined because of you? I remained silent. Feeling in a good mood, I decided not to argue with it anymore. After that, I watched Tom's dramatic performance like watching a monkey act. His indifference, concern, jealousy, and even the elevator malfunction were all carefully planned by Tom. Including that kiss, all just to deceive Vivian into willingly donating her kidney to his mother in the future. Men, always so cunning and deceitful. Perhaps Vivian would fall for it, but I wouldn't. I never expected that I would be so capable, manipulating the system to join forces with me and bring down the male lead. And I actually succeeded. But I paid a price for it, sacrificing myself by sleeping with that despicable person and kissing him. To compensate myself, I immediately arranged for 4 1.88-meter tall male models. Now, I am in a 2,000 square meter private estate, sipping wine and sunbathing. I can continue living this lavish life for a long time.